Emerald Fennell of today is barely recognizable as the Emerald Fennell who came into the scene with Promising Young Woman. I know that's strange to say about a director who only has 3 films, but it's hard not to say when her first film was a universally beloved Oscar contender, and her second film was the incredibly divisive Saltburn. Now, I personally enjoyed that film in that I found it to be an incredibly fascinating watch, but I easily understood the criticisms. It did seem like Emerald Fennell was slowly moving away from being a genuine storyteller all the way to becoming the shock jockey of directors. A lot of scenes in that movie felt like they were intentionally included to get a rise out of people and go viral on TikTok. And hey, it worked. Now, if you love the classic novel Wuthering Heights, then the announcement that Fennell would be tackling that book as her next film was probably nightmare fuel. There are a lot of justifiable concerns that Fennell would take this book, which is rich in depth, throw out all of the subtext, and make a much simpler I'm 14 and this is cool version of a book which genuinely critiques toxic relationships. I mean, Christ, there was an early test screening report which involved an opening scene in which an executed man finishes into a crowd. But if you were worried that Emerald Fennell would turn Wuthering Heights into nothing more than 2 hours of shock value, you can rest easy, cause what we get is far more boring than that. You can call Saltburn many things: stupid, shallow, idiotic, whatever you want to call it, fake, edgy, but if there's one thing you couldn't call it, it's boring. I mean, at worst, it's a train wreck you can't look away from. The scene in which Barry Keoghan pleasures himself into a grave, yeah, it's shock value that exists only to make you look at the screen, but at least you are looking at the screen and not your watch. But for better or for worse, and it's certainly for worse, Wuthering Heights is nowhere near as quote-unquote interesting as that film. The worst thing I can say about it is the worst thing I can say about any movie. It's plain boring. Poor excuse of a romance film which gives 2 A-list actors an excuse to navel gaze at each other before destroying the lives of everyone involved in their putrid romance. Margot Robbie and Emerald Fennell compared this film's tragic romance to the iconic Titanic, and in doing so, they show you that they understand Titanic just about as much as a 13-year-old boy understands American Psycho. I mean, the reason Titanic's tragic end hits is because we as an audience cared so much about Jack and Rose. We root for them to succeed. We hope that their love is strong enough to overcome the tragedy of the Titanic. Never at any point will you feel the same way while watching Wuthering Heights. From the get-go, this whole romance feels like a terrible idea, and the only thing that differs is, well, the reasons why it's terrible evolve throughout the film. But one thing that rarely ceases to change is this. These are 2 terrible people doing terrible things to each other and terrible things to the people around them for God knows what. And as a viewer, where's the joy in that? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people who insists that every character has to be likable or righteous. Marty Supreme was my favorite film character of last year, and he's a bit of a douchebag. But that was the magic of Marty Supreme, how the film was able to make you root for this terrible guy. And it did so through the strength of Chalamet's performance. By creating a character who was so smooth talking and slick, it was hard not to fall in love with him. I mean, if you're gonna center your film around an unlikable character, you've gotta give us something to cling on to. Well, Wuthering Heights has not only one unlikable character, but 2. Except there's barely anything to like here. These are 2 truly wretched souls that at best will bore you to death and at worst will genuinely remind you of some real life romances you wish to forget of. The idea of a toxic romance about 2 people who are pulled so close together with such a force that it destroys everything around them could be genuinely compelling. But to get us to root for or at least understand these 2 characters, you would have to make us understand why they love each other. If you get that one thing right, I truly believe we could forgive anything. And that is perhaps this movie's fatal flaw. Jacob Elordi and Margot Robbie are undoubtedly 2 of the biggest Hollywood names today, but that does not make them a great fit for each other. I don't care how many interviews Margot gives to the contrary, there was not a single moment in this film where I felt like I was genuinely watching two people in love. Seeing these two on screen with each other doesn't feel like you're seeing two artistic decisions. Instead, you're simply seeing the art of commerce playing out on screen. You can just see a producer sitting across from another producer and saying, hey, you know who people really like? Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi. Yeah, let's put them in a romance movie together. Margot at least turns in a decent performance, but Jacob Elordi, I mean, he seems about as bawdy as he does in his photo shoots, and I mean, that's impressive. But the two of these together are truly a match made in hell. Forget the way they use their friends and family as pawns in their romance, just seeing these two on stage kiss is enough to give you the ick. Now, there is about one good thing I can say about this movie, which is that it is visually stunning. It truly has the every frame a painting feel of a movie like Barry Lyndon, but you simply cannot dress this turd up. And seeing the abomination that Emerald has put on screen here genuinely makes me feel guilty for ever even liking Saltburn, because everyone who hated that film saw where she was going as a director. But while the style of Saltburn was enough to hold it together, here you can just see it all come loose. So unless the idea of watching two overgrown teenage lovers be jerks to each other and everyone around them sounds like a good time to you, I would probably skip this piece of crap. Or hey, if you're gonna watch it on mute. And for that, I'm giving this one a 3 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for weekly TV and movie reviews. And if you've had the chance to watch Wuthering Heights, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. I'm Cinemike, and I'll see you next time.